This weekend, Friday, November 14th through Sunday, November 16th, we're working with a wonderful wave of the grand water trine that's been coming in and out of alignment since late October. This weekend, Jupiter and Saturn are in almost perfect trine, and the sun is solidly within orb all weekend, completing this grand water trine. Plus, we have Neptune and Uranus sextile again, but they're both retrograde now and in their older placements. Neptune is back in Pisces at 29 degrees, and Uranus is back in Taurus, also at that powerful mastery degree point. And I think we have to mention Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, finally pulling away from Mars this weekend as it heads back towards the sign of introspection and intensity, Scorpio. It's a really interesting weekend astrologically, and I'm excited to talk about it all with you today. Let's get started with the Sun-Jupiter grand water trine. It kind of feels like it's dominating the landscape of the astrology this weekend, don't you think? We can see it here so present in the sky, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on the chart anyway. We're talking about a trine between Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter exalted in Cancer, and the sun is within orb of this arrangement all weekend, building into this grand trine for the next few days and then for a few days after that. I want to mention that I will take a look at the chat at the end of this conversation. I'm so excited to have you here. If you're joining me live, please feel free to leave any questions in the chat, and I'll take a look at that at the end. And if you're watching this later, feel free to leave a question or any feedback in the comments, and I'll look at it later as well. We'll just sort of go through the astrology, and then I'd love to chat a little more casually with a Q&A at the end. So yeah, feel free to leave any questions about the astrology that we're covering today, or anything about astrology in general, or just anything that's on your mind and that you want to talk about. I love having this space for even just for you all to talk to each other, to be building community in this way. It's really fun. So I'm glad to be gathering with you on this Friday morning to talk about the astrology of the weekend ahead. Okay, so I think it is pretty interesting with these water trine alignments, the way that they have sort of been coming in and out of focus. So a planet will move through the alignment, and then we have a few days break, and then another planet moves through, few days break. It's just really been this series, and it will continue to be that way. The sun, it's now the sun's turn to move through the configuration. Mercury during this cycle will move through it 3 times because of Mercury's retrograde, twice in November. One's already happened when Mercury was direct, and then one final time in December. So I just think it's been interesting the way that this pattern has been shaping up, where we have a perfection sort of the grand water trine, although I spoke in my last video about how Jupiter and Saturn actually are not perfecting the trine here. Not until next year will they perfect the trine, and they will be in fire signs at that time. But we're within orb here. We're working with the grand water trine. And I think that it's coming into alignment, and then there's a few days without it. So it's sort of giving us a chance to process what we're feeling, what we're thinking, what happened, and then it's sort of coming in again. So if you're feeling like sort of waves of an emotional frequency, coming and going, and this grand water trine can be about a lot more than emotions. It can be about intuition and going deep and really listening and um, being in touch with yourself and others in this more sort of intuitive way, not a mental way, but sort of an emotional way. But I think that's coming and going perhaps a little bit as well for us. But I think one thing that can be very common is some sort of emotional process that you're working through from sort of late October through mid-December. And there's some way in which this grand water trine is sort of telling a story. And it's doing a lot to strengthen us as we're moving through it. So part of why we're going through this experience is that we have sort of the support of the grand water trine. When we have a trine, it means that these parts of the energy right now are working easily and well with each other. We have all these different uh, things going on at once in a chart, in our own natal chart. Um, and the goal is sort of, they all just sort of want to be heard. And sometimes the way that planets are arranged, it supports them all being heard. And that's sort of what a trine is. The energy can move very easily between these 3 points. And so we have energy moving easily between all the water signs, in and out from sort of late October through mid-December, right? So this water sign energy is flowing easily. So in some way, it's like there's a lot happening on the emotional plane, but we also have the strength and the emotional ability to handle it, and that's sort of why it's coming up. This is a great time to process and move through anything because we have this support of the grand water trying to help us do it, if that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about how we might be feeling this over the course of this weekend. I will say that it's really not just this weekend that this trine is active. It's really coming in on the 14th, and I think it's within orb here until about November 22nd. So this is a major timing moment. Jupiter and Saturn come together every 20 years, and their last great conjunction was in 2020. And that was sort of especially eventful because we're in the process of moving those conjunctions from happening in earth signs to air signs. So now, after that sort of very important great conjunction in 2020, Jupiter and Saturn are coming into this trine pattern. Like I said before, they actually aren't perfecting this grand trine because of the retrogrades coming in. Jupiter went retrograde, Saturn went retrograde, but they're not going to exactly catch each other. Look how close they are to each other here. But because of the retrograde motions, it's not exactly perfecting. And that won't happen until both are in fire signs next year. And in 2026 and 2027, we will have 3 trines, I believe, between Jupiter and Saturn in fire signs. But this one isn't perfecting. Still, they are within orb. We are counting this, of course, but there's the asterisk on it. There's a little caveat. There's a little disclaimer. It's not your normal trine formation because they are not perfecting. But the sun is moving through this pattern, the 14th through the 22nd. Jupiter and Saturn doesn't perfect, but it comes as close they come as close as they're going to come on the 17th. So we are really at a point where they are basically, for all intents and purposes, very much trine one another. So this is a time where we really might be able to notice just how far we've truly come since that great conjunction in 2020. We can likely see how far we've come, and we can likely see how far people around us have come, how much has changed in the world, not just for us individually, but also in the world since that time. And this is a time that there is a little bit of inherent tension, sort of between the past and the future indicated here. It's Saturn and Jupiter that we're talking about. These are different energies. You know, Saturn wants to constrict, but Jupiter wants to expand. And so these energies are flowing easily now, but there is sort of an inherent tension that's somehow part of that progress. You know, it might be beneficial in some way, that tension for moving things forward. And so sometimes it's nice to be aware of that this is sort of constructive, uh, a constructive pull a little bit, you know, with this support of this grand water trine, changes that we want to make, efforts that we want to make, especially in water ways, healing ways, emotional ways. Our efforts will go a long way during this time because of the support of this trine. And the things that we do, or the things that we build, or the things that we heal are sort of built to last in that way. You know, change comes easily, progress is made easily. The growth that comes in is sort of sustainable. You know, I think that we're understanding with this harmony of Jupiter and Saturn sort of what we want to expand into, and then we have the practical steps for how to get there. And with the sun moving into this alignment this weekend and next week, that really is such a powerful part of the cycle because the sun illuminates. So the sun is sort of making this path clear at this time. We're seeing the way. The way has sort of been coming into alignment for a while, but with the sun, it's like the spotlight gets shown on it and we can see that path. So we might be having some ideas now about how to move things forward. There may be some positive growth happening potentially as well in relationships with the support of this grand water trine, this easy water energy, right? It's a great time for sort of aligning with other people, like-minded people, getting on the same page, stabilizing emotions in relationships in some way, which really stabilizes the relationship. It's just sort of a lovely aspect. And I think, again, with the sun here, it sort of illuminates the positive bonds that exist, the support systems that we have, the relationships that are good and right for us now, the ways of feeling and thinking that feel right. You know, there's sort of a sun, the sun shining a light on the path, and the potential forward is there with that as well. Um, you know, there really is something very confident. There's more confidence available to us with something like this. If you feel strong emotionally, what's better than feeling strong emotionally? Right? Maybe that's what confidence is. It's like, well, if something happens that's challenging emotionally, you can sort of let it go. You can sort of shake it off. We're feeling very able in that way, and that's mature. Also, it's very mature to be that way. It's very emotionally mature, and it's very mature in general to be able to um, not step out of your character, your mission, your center because of what's happening externally, you know. And there's something about a grand water trine that kind of helps us to have that maturity and that confidence that comes with it. And there's a positivity to this too. It's positive. We have a positive mindset, a positive outlook. We're feeling good about relationships. I like that. I like that. So this is a really supportive grand water trine that we're working with this weekend and into next week. It is a part of a larger story that began in late October and unfolds through December. We're not talking about something intellectual here, you know? This is more of an emotional process. So I feel like I've said the word emotional so many times in this live, and I've been saying it a lot in connection with these grand water trines, and I'm sorry. I need to find a different way. But you get the idea. Um, we are going through some sort of a process that hits on that deeper, more intuitive level. If you think about water and how um, its its traits, its depth, its content, um, to sort of be dealing with those deeper feelings. Feelings is a word for a synonym for emotions. To be dealing with deeper feelings, dealing with our psychology, sort of on that deeper level. It might not be a sort of a mental process that we're fully aware of, um, especially not yet at this point in the cycle. I also think we do have this Neptune Uranus in play this weekend as well. And Neptune's strong right now. And Neptune's quite close to Saturn as well. You might even say that they are conjunct. They're quite close to it. I think with outer planets, I tend to give a pretty big orb. So I would say that Neptune and Saturn are conjunct here, and that Neptune is therefore interacting with this trine. And there's just something about Neptune that I love talking about Neptune because it's really cool, you know. It's these higher spiritual signatures, it's unconditional love, it's connection with others in such a wonderful way. Um, it's it like blurs the lines in a way that can be really cool. But sometimes it's hard to talk about Neptune and it's hard to understand transits that are happening when Neptune is involved while they're happening. There's more understanding of it later down the road. And I could see that being the case with this. Not just because Neptune's involved, but really just all the water, right? All the water kind of makes this process a little bit more ineffable, a little bit more difficult to talk about. It's a little bit deeper than that, but it's positive. And I think we have a little extra strength and ability right now to do some healing work, to do some feeling about our lives. You know, we have to think about our lives, but we have to feel about our lives too. And this would be a good time to do that. Listening to those feelings, taking the time to tune into them, giving yourself a little rest so that you can check in there. And I think through a positive outlook, through maturity, through confidence, we can really take advantage of this time to be stabilizing right relationships with ourselves, with others. There's really a lot of very positive potential here with this. So, the Neptune Uranus sextile at 29 degrees does kind of advance the signature of both of those planets. You know, the 29th degree is a powerful degree point. It is the anaretic degree. It is a point where the some of the traits of the signature can really flare up, almost for lack of a better word. But that's kind of the description I'm going for. It can be a difficult placement, 29 degrees, but it's also the mastery degree. It's a degree where we're really sorting things out and functioning with that signature at a very high level potentially. So the fact that Neptune and Uranus are both at 29 degrees in and of itself sort of makes them a little extra. And then the fact that they're both retrograde back into these signs that they've been in for years and are working their way out of feels significant too. And then the sextile, this easy energy between them, the fact that they're connecting in an easy aspect just kind of ups the ante for both of them, right? It kind of gives them both a little extra strength and power because they have something to bounce their energy off of that supports it. The same way that this grand water trine is moving energy easily, this sextile is as well. I'm not putting it on the chart because I just don't want to cloud up the chart today. I don't feel like writing all over it for once. I will not make our chart look crazy. So, there's something about the end of 2025 when we're talking about these outer planets being back in these old signs. There's something about that that could feel like a return to the past in some kind of a way. It's like we got, especially over the summer, we got a little bit of a glimpse of where we're going. And the pace is kind of slowing now on that. And we're having to go back to some other things that we were working or that we were doing or that we were thinking about in order to wrap that all up, clean that all up, finish that all up. And then we can firmly step into that new era with these outer planets in their new signs. I do kind of love that Pluto is firmly in Aquarius, and I feel like Pluto is holding space for actually for that outer planet triangle to line back up again in the future. We spoke a lot this summer about the outer planet triangle, and that's not going away. As these planets continue to move through these houses and signs, we have that coming in and out of alignment for a while. So I like that Pluto is staying where it is for now, because if Pluto went back into Capricorn, we'd have a outer planet triangle again between these old signs. And as much as I think sometimes things feel a little crazy when the outer planets aren't in these harmonic, like these positive alignments, like they often tend to be, actually, sometimes I think it can be a little off or challenging with that. I think it's good that Pluto is staying in the new part of the sky. I think that's continuing to help pull us into the future, which is really nice. But it's a little bit of a strange energy right now, because in some ways we're in the future. We've had this glimpse of the future. We know where we're going, but we're having to go back a little bit with these outer planets at the 29 degrees. So if you feel sometimes like, oh, I didn't really think I was going to be doing this anymore. I thought I was done with this, or should I still be doing this? Maybe I need to let this go. There might just be a little more work to do in some old timelines and some old stories before we can fully step into this new era. So the astrology would support that could be happening right now. I also want to mention Mercury and Mars this weekend. Mercury and Mars have been traveling together for weeks because they were traveling together through Scorpio, and then Mercury went retrograde. So that kind of kept them together extra long because Mercury was moving more slowly, which made their speed more similar. But also because when Mercury went retrograde, it sort of did it right with Mars and they stayed close together for quite a while. And finally, this weekend, Mars is beginning to pull away. And we'll have just a little time sort of away from Mars before passing back over again on its way out of Scorpio, or its way out of Sagittarius, I mean. But Mercury's retrograde right now in Sagittarius, pulling away from that alignment with Mars. That is probably made, it's just fiery. It feels like the last couple of weeks, there was just a lot of potential for fiery words, fiery actions, impulsive decisions, things moving very quickly, things being very busy, a lot to talk about, a lot to think about, a lot to do, trying to keep sort of all these balls up in the air at the same time. There's a busyness to the Mercury-Mars conjunction. There's potentially, old arguments coming back to the surface when Mercury was retrograde. People saying things too quickly and then having to go over them again and correct themselves. And some of that could still be continuing. We still have a Mercury retrograde, but I also want to say it can be incredibly productive. the highest, well, not the highest, but one really potential, good, like easy, supportive, positive potential of that signature is just being very productive. So if you were super productive the last couple weeks, good for you. That's a really great way to use that energy. And that might just been how this showed up for some people. I'm sure it was. Um, but now we are kind of pulling away from that, and I think that's good. And Mercury is retrograde through Sag and then through Scorpio, doing a little dance with Uranus as it gets ready to cross back over there, or as it does cross back over into Scorpio. It will oppose Uranus. I have more about that as well in my November horoscopes, and I talk a lot about these grand water trines in the November horoscopes as well. If you want to check those out, best viewed for your rising sign. And is that about all I have today? Just that this Mercury moving away from Mars is sort of calming the busyness, um, and all the fast happenings and all the movement a little. I guess I said that. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna look at the chat now, but I also want to say that I will link at the end of this video to other relevant astrology videos right now. I think I'll link to the Taurus full moon one. We're still in that energy and I didn't discuss it today. And also the Mercury retrograde video. If you enjoyed this video, you'd probably like those too. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat. How is everyone today? How are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you enjoying this energy or not? Or just how are you doing in November? How are you feeling in Scorpio season? Getting ready for upcoming holidays? How is everybody hanging in? I feel like so many things are so crazy right now on so many different levels. So I'm glad we have this place where we can sort of step back and gather and take a deep breath and just check in, because it's so important, whatever we're dealing with, to try to bring our best selves to it. You know, astrology is a neat tool, but I think a part of what I want to do with this channel is sort of help not take it too seriously. It is a fun and useful tool, and if we use it with a certain lightness, it actually has better potential than if we cling to it really tightly, you know, like so many things. But sometimes in a crazy world, something that feels like it's giving a little bit of clarity or understanding, it can be easy to sort of move toward it a little bit like too intensely. And I just think I want to sort of continue with this channel to talk about astrology and to enjoy talking about astrology, but have it a little bit as one tool in a toolbox, you know, and it's the tool we're talking about on this channel. But, you know, the most important thing we can do in our lives is do everything we can to move towards our goals. You know, try to stay positive about ourselves, about the world, try to help others, you know. And we have so many tools that we can use. I know for me, it's so good for me to meditate. It's so good for me to get time in nature. It's really important that I connect with people who mean a lot to me, you know, so we all have all these tools. Anyway, you all know that, and I'm glad that we're here, and maybe this community can be a tool that we have a little bit too. Yeah, someone talking about dreams may be coming in quite a lot, and that totally works with this water trine for sure. And I think Neptune at 29 degrees, and just so much happening in Pisces, Neptune, Saturn, and the North Node in Pisces. Yeah, it can be a very dreamy time, sort of literally and figuratively. And you might feel like sleeping a lot, or you might have some sleep disturbances. That's definitely related to water themes and Pisces as well. Oh, I'm glad that you find I'm glad to hear that some of you find the charts helpful and the way I mark the charts helpful, and that you're enjoying learning astrology. And I'm glad that you're learning it too, and I'm glad that you're having fun with it too, and I'm glad that you find the charts helpful. Yeah, I mean, if you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart, seeing Bebo here, I hope that you're doing well today, Bebo. Um, if you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart, that's interacting with that Uranus back in Taurus, especially in later degrees of Scorpio. And it's Scorpio season. You know, the new moon at the in a week or so is going to be really interesting in terms of hitting those degree points in the later degrees of Scorpio. And Mercury retrograde is coming back at the same time. So there's sort of a lot going on with those Scorpio planets right now. They might be really activated. And you know, the planets in your chart are so much more important than the house, in my opinion. In my opinion, you know, I almost want to say there's always an exception, right? I can never just have like an easy rule that we can follow, but um, I would say with the exception of the nodes are an incredibly important thing to pay attention to in astrology. They're I think because we haven't heard of them often before we start studying astrology, they can sort of take a back seat too often because they're actually a really, really poignant thing in astrology to pay attention to. And I would say that the axis that the nodes is working with in your chart by house is really, really important. But other things, like if you have Venus at the final degree of Scorpio, that Venus at, you know, late degrees of Scorpio is the signature that is really going to be activated by all of the different transits happening there in the next few days and weeks. The house might not, you might not see the house as much as the planet show up, if that makes sense. So that's another great reason why we are our own best astrologers. Knowing your own chart a little bit can be helpful. I love people sharing their birth information and saying hello to each other. Okay, I like someone saying maybe they're feeling a little bit goofy too, sort of feeling confident and emotional, but also a little bit goofy. I think that also feeling goofy goes with this with this transit. That signature completely works with this as well. Dreaminess, goofiness, check check for water signs and for Pisces. You know, it's like we can't really stay in reality too long when there's a ton of Pisces stuff in the sky. I always think about with Pisces, those two fish swimming in the different directions. And it's almost like the fish is like coming in and out of reality. Like Pisces signatures, people with a lot of Pisces in their chart, or the Pisces part of your chart, any Pisces placements, um, can sort of come down to earth and get work done and do things and function. But then they have to like fly off again into space for a little while. Um, you know, go take a bath, take a nap, sing or dance or something. Like there's just a certain, it's not spacey at all. It's like it's higher than that, and I don't want to go too deep into it here, but the big idea is the Pisces stuff sort of can't stay on Earth for too long. So therefore goofiness, therefore dreaminess makes sense. Um, yeah, people feeling a little bit challenged, of course. Yeah, someone asking if I would do a collaboration. I would take, I would be happy to discuss that. Do you have a channel, Sue? I haven't done one before, but I would. I mean, I've collaborated on my end. I've done some videos with my friend Corinne, my friend Jen, and I did some videos as well, but I just sort of collaborated on my end. I didn't use the YouTube collab feature, but it seems really easy and interesting. And yeah, I'd be up for that. Tell me more. Um, you are so welcome. Thank you for the thank yous. You're all so nice. Oh, and I appreciate the calls to actions on my behalf to like this video and everything. That's very nice. Thank you. I try not to ask you guys for stuff too much. You know, I try to keep it to a minimum and just stay focused on the astrology and being together. I'm excited by the way that this channel has grown and developed, and I really enjoy it. So this has been a great a great time to be together. I am not really at my best today. I feel like I didn't sleep great last night with this. I don't know with what the water, all the water stuff. I really don't know, but maybe I wasn't quite at my best today as I try to be. So I just wanted to say that, but I'm fine, and it was really so nice to be with all of you, and I hope that you have a really nice weekend. This is a really, really nice transit, actually. It really is. We're at a very interesting moment astrologically in general. You know, there's a lot moving and changing and shifting, and it's a cool time. But good to try to go a little slow if you can and get a little extra rest where you can. So, um, I appreciate all of you being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful weekend.